We should end the federal prohibition on marijuana. And given the fact tobacco use has plummeted, we haven't outlawed it. We treated it as a public health issue. We marketed against it. We made sure that it was not cool. We can do the same thing when it comes to cannabis or when it comes to marijuana.
Beto O'Rourke. Didn't the Democrats want him to be president or something like that? And it was his live-in maid that named him Beto, wasn't it? Isn't his name Robert or something? But they had a non-English speaking servant, household servant. It's a man of the people. Some of the people are going to be his servants for his family, all that. Well, I got to tell you, it's been very interesting to watch the reaction to the New York Times flip-flopping and flip-flopping again on the marijuana and the consumption of marijuana. A lot of people responding to that. Also, I want to get I wasn't even aware of this until I saw it, but the Basque flag is under attack. My people. I'm making a fist and shanking it angrily. I'm going to join the ETA. You know, the Basque homeland people. I want to get to that too, but first let's go back to the phones and talk to the great American people, because I got to say people responded to this, and I have a friend who is a Naval Academy grad sent me a text and said, "What is this? I'm listening to conservative talk radio, and people are talking about pot, and they like it's all it is very commonplace, like it's all okay." But a former naval officer is saying, "What is this? What am I listening to?" And it's the American people and conservatives. I hang out with mostly conservatives, not 100%, but mostly, and I don't go down this route a lot, but I know a lot of people that smoke pot. I know plenty of people that smoke pot. I always have. Growing up where I grew up in Chicago, and people I grew up with, people that I work with. I've worked in the news media business forever in Washington D.C. and I live in Washington D.C. and I was in Adams Morgan, which is a hotbed of mayhem for my first 7 years in Washington. And look, and where I live now, there's a pot store that it's a 9-iron away from here, from home. And there's another one right by the radio station. And there it's kind of a normal thing. I smell pot every day in Washington, D.C. My best girl and I live in a building in Washington, D.C. There you smell pot, and people legally grow their own pot in Washington, D.C. And it's the Democrats, look, they're legalizing fentanyl and heroin and handing out syringes in San Francisco and in New York, and they're legalizing everything because they say they're making everything better. And thousands will die, and then years from now, the New York Times will have a piece saying, well, maybe that wasn't a good idea, because that's how liberalism works, such as it is. But in the meantime, the marijuana thing is another discussion. It's not fentanyl and heroin, but let's go back to the telephones, and let's go to Steve calling from the great state of Illinois, the land of Lincoln. Stephen, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Hi, Chris. Thanks for
Steve.
taking my call.
Yeah, man.
Thank you for all you do.
Sure.
My position on it being legal is that I don't want young kids getting caught with it and then getting mixed up in our corrupt judicial system and that affecting them for the rest of their lives. That's my position on it.
Right, and so you would say that it should be legal, right?
It should be legal.
Right.
And I also don't want kids who are looking for it to find it on the streets with what we've seen with the fentanyl in our country and our country's what seemed to be the indifference to it in coming across the border, as we've watched for the last 4 years. For me, those two issues are the most important issue for me about it being legal. I don't want kids mixed up in what we've seen is a thoroughly corrupt judicial system, and which we're talking about right now with the Epstein files. And and that's just my position. I'm immovable on it. And that's just where I'm at on it.
Yeah, and look, I understand that too. If you're a teenager, say you're 15 years old and you're smoking pot, you're caught smoking pot. If it's a Schedule I narcotic, which it has been forever and ever, then it's actually on par legally with heroin and fentanyl, right? When it's a Schedule I drug. And Donald Trump is undoing that when Barack Obama did not and Joe Biden did not. Donald Trump is reducing the severity of the legal consequences of marijuana to a Schedule III drug rather than a Schedule I drug, right? You're familiar with all that?
Yes, correct.
And,
correct, I am.
And I understand what you're saying, that, you want to treat a kid who's smoking a puff of pot while he's riding a Stingray with his buddies, and it shouldn't be held to the same standard as somebody that's selling heroin on a street corner.
Exactly. And I don't want him to have to get a lawyer and get somebody, I know somebody who knows somebody, and then they're dealing with it on the record, and then they're wondering whether it's still on the record when they're graduating college. I don't want that in our society.
Right.
What I've seen from the last decade from our country and our judicial system, from Russiagate to the Epstein files, I don't want kids mixed up in our thoroughly corrupt judicial system.
Very interesting, very interesting. And you would describe yourself politically how?
A staunch conservative.
Yeah.
I've been a conservative since I was a young kid. I'm a conservative who doesn't have to think to be conservative. It's just who I am.
Yeah. Yeah, and you were raised that way, your household, your family?
No, my parents were liberal.
Oh, no kidding. Okay. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I mean. I'm just hardwired conservative, Chris.
Wow. So you're like that Michael J. Fox character with a briefcase going to school.
When I got older, I realized all the conservative papers I wrote in the 80s in college and all the bad grades I got in it, it never really dawned on me. I just thought it was my writing skill.
That's great. That's what was his name? Michael Keaton, something like that. No, that's different. That's a different thing. Well, listen. That's great. So I understand. I do understand completely. Teenagers. Again, California, they wrote you a ticket for $100 like it's a traffic violation because it kind of kept it off the streets and that there was a penalty for it, but it wasn't going to drag you down and give you a criminal record for the rest of your life. And even when I first started doing talk radio 20 years ago, more than 20 years ago, and I had lived in Santa Barbara before that, long before that, and I say, that it kind of made sense to me. But when I moved from Chicago to California, they were doing that, and I said, wow, in Chicago you got arrested with pot, you got handcuffs, you got a court date, and then in California they write you a ticket and send you on your way. And I thought that kind of makes more sense. The judicial system and the police don't have to be caught up dealing with all that stuff. In California, I think everybody was smoking pot then. Now I'm sure everybody plus one smokes pot now in California. And in Illinois, is pot legal in Illinois?
Yes, it is.
So you can go to stores and buy it. You don't have to have a prescription.
There are dispensaries in Illinois. Yes, there are.
Do you have to have a doctor's prescription or something?
Well, that's how they got the camel's nose in the tent.
Yeah, and then they give you. They probably. I think here in D.C. they have that, but the guy at the pot store gives you a prescription or something like that.
Yeah. That's all a farce.
Right. Yeah. Well,
just to get the camel's nose in the tent.
Right. Yeah. For full legalization. Right. And again, I don't think it's the end of the world. But if again, it's like having a drink. If you come home from work and you have a drink, great. If you get up in the morning and you start pounding alcohol and you get in the car and you drive to work and you're drinking at lunch and then you're drinking through.
AA's next stop, right?
Yeah, that's right. And I've certainly seen that in newsrooms. The newsroom at CNN, a lot of people had bottles of liquor in their desk drawers and things when I was at CNN. And, in fact, there was one guy, one of the big political editors, who would sit there in front of everybody and do cocaine on his desk and chop it up. Pull out a credit card and roll up a bill and do cocaine on his desk. And
that's no good. That's the road to hell.
It is, yeah. Cocaine's not good for you, and none of those things really is. But I tell you, the left said cocaine was just great for decades too, and all the lawyers were doing cocaine, and everybody's doing cocaine. It was no big deal, just made you perky and wanted to party. But it turned out that it was incredibly addictive, still is, and deadly, lethal, potentially lethal drug, cocaine, and very, very addictive, very addictive.
Right. Yeah. Stay away from it. I witnessed it in my own life with acquaintances, and that was all I had to see to know to stay away.
Yeah, me too. Again, when I moved from Chicago to California, cocaine was everywhere, and I saw the behavior right away, and I thought, well, this is making people weird and paranoid, and they live in a fantasy world where they think they're the only ones with cocaine, or their cocaine's better than everybody else's cocaine, and it created a lot of peculiar behavior. And then I did see people die and become junkies and go to jail, and lawyers and things like that, because drugs can be funny. Well, there we have that. All right, well, that's fun. Listen, Steve, thank you for the call. I think a lot of people are slack-jawed by some of these conversations here. I am not. Steve, thanks, buddy. Thanks for the call. Let's go. I mentioned the Basque flags, and I saw this on the big board. And being of Basque descent myself, my real last name being Orteg. I was Chris Orteg until I was 5 years old. My father died when I was a baby, and my mother remarried when I was 5 years old, and became my new last name became Plant, because my mother remarried a guy named Plant, and used to take last names back then and all that stuff. But Basque, Basque, I'm Irish on one side, Basque on the other. You got terror groups on both sides. The ETA, the Basque terror group, and of course, the IRA on the Irish Catholic side. If I should convert to Islam, I could become really bad news. So let's look out for that. But let's go to the telephones. Let's talk to Finn, calling from Rockville, Maryland. Finn, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Hey, Chris.
Hey, Finn.
I'm married to a Basque woman straight from Bilbao.
All right.
And I have gone all in on the Basque culture, and
cool.
and in fact, I hope that we will retire there someday. But anyway, I wanted to bring this to your attention. There is a huge fight in Boise, Idaho, and for those that don't know, Boise, Idaho is the sister city of Guernica in the Basque region, which was bombed by Hitler during the prelude to the Second World War. But in any event,
there's a famous Picasso painting depicting that attack. Yeah.
So there is a huge fight in Boise, Idaho, regarding the flying of the Icodenia, which is the formal name for the Basque flag, because Boise, Idaho legislature, from what I can read about it, and I'm kind of paraphrasing here, is that the pride flag was made an official flag, so that flag can fly on any state or state government building or flagpole or something that has to do with formal government buildings. And the legislature is being pushed through that they want to ban the ability to fly the Basque flag from any of these buildings in response to the government making the pride flag an official flag. Am I kind of articulating that correctly?
Well, I think so, because of the political nature and because of Democrats of the rainbow flag and probably the transgender flag too. You can fly those on government buildings, but if you have a cause or something, I don't know if there are a lot of Basques in Coeur d'Alene, but maybe I assume there are. Otherwise, they wouldn't be flying the Basque flag there. But they're banning the flying of the Basque flag while keeping the Democrat political flags in play.
Right.
Is that right?
It's crazy. Just another example of if we can't have it our way, then everybody suffers.
Right.
It's sad.
They're authoritarian in their orientation. About everything. Yeah, in the Idaho Press, bill imposing fines on local governments flying pride flags heads to the House floor. That's 4 days ago. So apparently that's being introduced because the left always picks a fight, and then they become angry if anybody fights back. And the Idaho bill targeting flags advances. As it stands, the Basque flag would be banned from flying or being otherwise displayed by the city of Boise. And why would that's racist, I think, isn't it? I just like to use the word racist whenever possible because of the Democrats, there. So, new bill.
Just to follow up on this, just one more thing.
Yes, sir.
The more I thought about it, it's kind of ridiculous because, as you said, the Basque people are a race. They speak their own language. People don't know where they came from.
Right.
And the point is that flag represents a race of people and people that actually helped settle and build Boise in that area. Reno, Nevada, Coeur d'Alene, Boise, Idaho, that kind of region. That's where all these Basque people kind of settled.
Uh-huh.
And it would be the same thing if people that were swingers were to go and demand or a city council or a government made an upside-down pineapple flag, an official flag that you would fly outside of a government building.
Yeah.
I kind of look at it as the same. The pride flag and an upside-down pineapple flag is kind of one and the same. You are announcing your sexual preference.
Well, and the Democrats just pick a fight over everything. They politicize everything. They pick a fight over everything. And Hillary Clinton saying there is only the fight has become the Democrat Party's mantra. And great stuff. Finn, I love it. You want to retire in the Basque Territories. That's beautiful. Married to an actual Basque woman. I bet she's beautiful and smart and wonderful. I say that only because I'm Basque. And wonderful stuff. Oh, and the Basque language. Nobody knows where the Basque language comes from. It has no roots in Latin. It has no known roots. It's a unique language on planet Earth, the Basque language. The Basques have their own language. I don't speak a word of Basque, and it's a very difficult language. But nobody knows where the language comes from. They're a very interesting people. I'm happy to be Basque.
Jose, I beg your pardon. My name's Sutter. What's yours? My name's Jules Orteig, Orteig. What is that, French? Yeah, after fashion.
We have a great deal yet remaining. We have Cardi B. Remember Cardi B? She's kind of a hoot. She's nuts, and she's, I think, a racist. We'll have that coming up. We've got Keith Ellison. He is the Attorney General in Minnesota, a formerly proud state, a tragic state today. Very terrible story. That whole Minnesota story. Speaking of which, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, we've got him. He says that ICE enforcing immigration law has been so terrible there that we need to pay people. The Democrats, they look out for each other. They always have each other's backs, and doesn't matter if you're a fascist, Jew-hating, river-to-the-sea, anti-Semite, pro-Hamas lunatic. You're in good with them. And academia, of course, is controlled by the organ-harvesting left. Politico magazine has a story today. The headline is, "She resigned as Penn president." The University of Pennsylvania, Ivy League. She resigned as Penn president after a controversial hearing. Now she's back. Controversial hearing, and she's a virulent anti-Semite. Liz McGill, the former president of the University of Pennsylvania, will be the new dean of Georgetown University's law school. See, it's a hot tub. It's a circle fest in a hot tub. Liz McGill's comeback has begun, and she's moving from one fraught arena to another. Listen to this. It's pretty well. On Friday, that's today, Georgetown University will announce that Liz McGill, the former president of the University of Pennsylvania, who resigned in December of 2023 after a contentious congressional hearing on anti-Semitism. She was the anti-Semite, has been named the new dean of its law school at Georgetown University, an allegedly Catholic university it used to be. McGill's appointment comes as a precarious moment. It's a precarious moment for both higher education and the legal profession. With President Donald Trump pressuring universities and law firms to bend to his agenda, is that what's happening? I don't think that's what's happening. Just don't hire the Nazis, in her new job, instead of navigating campus protests over Israel, they're anti-Israel, she'll be training the next generation of lawyers with the rule of law under attack. The so-called rule of law ought to be under attack in 2026. However thorny the task ahead is, it offers Liz McGill, well-known anti-Semite, a chance to return to a top-tier academic post in a familiar role. She served as dean of the Stanford Law School before making her way to Penn. Again, circle fest in a hot tub. The position also gives her a chance to move beyond the 2023 hearing. And Politico is here to help her move beyond that because, you just exterminate all the Jews in the state of Israel, and that's fine when you're so-called liberal, right? That episode ricocheted throughout Washington and beyond after McGill, MIT President Sally Kornbluth, you remember all this anti-Semite stuff, and they all got fired. And then Harvard President Claudine Gay. Her name is Claudine Gay. That helps her out professionally, I say. Were asked whether advocacy for Jewish genocide would violate campus speech policies. Each of the three university presidents, said that the answer depended on the context. A legalistic response, is that what it was? That may have been accurate, but fell flat in a tense moment. See, Politico says, well, it's accurate. Sure, it depends on the context. You want to kill all the Jews and wipe Israel off the map? Well, that depends on the context. Are you goose-stepping with armbands? Well, not entirely, but that's okay. In an exclusive interview before beginning her new job, McGill told me, this is a left-wing radical at Politico, of course, as they all are, told me that she'd spent a lot of time thinking about the correct congressional testimony. Sure. That could have been offered in response to the questioning from New York GOP Representative Elise Stefanik. It's a Republican asked the question. Therefore, it's suspect, according to the left-wingers at Politico. My testimony in Congress left people distressed. That's because you sounded like Hitler. Just a minor thing. And it particularly did that for Jewish students back on the Penn campus. That's because you sounded like Goebbels. See, and that's the thing. I take very seriously, she said, the response that people had to my testimony, and I regret that I conveyed a lack of compassion and care and good sense to those people, she said. I want every Jewish student, every student of every faith. That's not what we're talking about here. Every view, every single student to feel they are in a secure environment. Should it be a safe space? And that they're in a place where they can flourish. Well, then maybe you shouldn't have said all that stuff about wiping Israel off the face of the map and saying, well, yeah, genocide against the Jews. Well, that's a discussion that we have on campus, The Trump administration and its allies have relentlessly attacked Ivy League universities, well, just about the obvious stuff, and their equally well-funded peers as bastions of left-wing ideological indoctrination, which is what they are. Rife with anti-Semitism. Well, just the riots and from the river to the sea, and you're all pro-Hamas and wearing your Hamas headdresses and calling for Jews to be in danger, and don't wear a Star of David around your neck and don't wear a yarmulke or your life will be in danger because the left-wing fascists, remembering that Adolf Hitler's party was the Socialist Workers' Party of Germany. Several schools, including Brown University, Columbia University, Cornell University, Northwestern University, University of Pennsylvania, and the University of Virginia, have struck deals with the administration, sometimes paying fines of millions of dollars in order to end federal investigations and restore research grants. Honestly, the goose-stepping of the left. And who killed more Jews, the Nazis, the Socialist Workers' Party of Germany, or the USSR, the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics? Who killed, who enslaved? Honestly, you people. I'm telling you. So she's got a new job. Hey, congratulations, at a Catholic university. How's the anti-Semitism there? Let's see. I don't think they can tell you. Crazy. Your Democrat Party. They are something. Yes, they are. All right. Looking at the clock now, I think, I have audio that there's very important audio that I haven't gotten to yet, and it's good stuff. But I wanted to share that because it's pretty wild. They've normalized anti-Semitism. They've normalized child sex abuse. Jeffrey Epstein and all the Epstein pals, and we got Barack Obama's White House counsel who was up to her eyeballs in Jeffrey Epstein and the adoring emails back and forth, and they love it. But let me get to the next thing, because this is pretty wild. The governor of Minnesota is a man named Tim Walz, and he's not a good man at all. He's a terrible man. But now he's complaining that the Minnesota public radio people funded by the taxpayers. Listen to this, because it's just great. Walz, Democrat Governor Kim Walz, Minnesota. Walz backs $10 million aid package for Minnesota small businesses hurt by ice surge. If the small businesses were hurt by the ice surge, maybe ICE should raid those businesses. That's what I'm thinking. Minnesota Governor Tim Walz said Thursday he'll back an aid package to support state businesses, especially immigrant-owned business. That's said, hurt by the surge of federal immigration agents in Minnesota over the past 2 months. I think any business that was hurt should be raided by ICE. Walz told reporters he himself will propose $10 million emergency fund, similar to an effort during COVID-19, which the communist Chinese unleashed on the world from the Wuhan Institute of Virology, which is why it's called the Wuhan Red Death, and the red commies, and it causes death, That would offer forgivable loans. That means it's not a loan. That means they're just giving other people's money away. And targeted at small businesses. What does that mean, forgivable loans? We know what that means. That means free money that they're stealing from other people, and they're going to give to illegal aliens. Here is Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, soundbite number 1.
We are cautiously optimistic that this surge of untrained, aggressive federal agents
are
going to leave Minnesota.
They're not aggressive.
And I guess they'll go wherever they're going to go. But the fact of the matter is,
enforce the
they
law.
left us with deep damage, generational trauma.
You did that.
They left us with economic ruin in some cases.
Generational trauma, economic ruin, because when they arrested thousands of illegal aliens and criminals, there will be fewer murders in Minneapolis and St. Paul because of what ICE has done. There will be fewer fatal drug overdoses. There will be fewer violent crimes, and the Democrats want more violent crimes. They want more murder. Generational trauma. How is that generational trauma? The Democrats created all of this trauma. The Democrats inspired Alex Pretty to go out with his gun and 2 loaded magazines to go violently attack federal law enforcement because of the rhetoric of people like Tim Walz, who go around calling everybody Nazis and fascists, and they're destroying democracy. And then the mentally ill fringe Democrats like Alex Pretty goes out with his gun and attacks and spits in the faces of Hispanic federal law enforcement agents through the glass on their vehicles, spitting on them, kicking out their taillights, got his gun with him, violently attacking, assaulting federal agents. And that's the problem, Governor Walz, not federal law enforcement defending themselves against violent attacks from armed men who are mentally ill. And then, of course, their hero, Renee Good, who crashed her car into a federal agent after disobeying orders to get out of the vehicle. She had turned her vehicle sideways across a 6-lane road, I think, and was blocking federal law enforcement. When law enforcement got out and said, "Get out of your vehicle, ma'am," she instead put it in gear and punched it and crashed into a federal agent, and she got shot in the face and killed. And the Democrats think that she's the hero of the story and that Alex Preti is the hero of the story. And somehow there's generational trauma, and if there is, that's because the Democrat Party is spreading their own mental illness disease. Tim Walz, and there he is. He says there's generational trauma, economic ruin, and deep damage. So he's got to give away millions of other people's dollars. Here is Democrat Governor Tim Walz.
The state of Minnesota and our administration is unwaveringly focused on the recovery of what they did.
You're mentally
One
ill.
of the first things we can do, and what we're focusing on today, is what can we start doing on the economic recovery? The damage that has been done to our economy, specifically to small business owners, and even more specifically to immigrant small business owners, which for every other administration and for most of our history is the epitome of the American dream.
The epitome. He wanted to call it the epitome. I know he did. He's not a bright man. He's not a serious man. He's an embarrassing man. And to the extent that there was any damage caused at all, 100% on the Democrat Party. On Tim Walz, on their idiot mayor in Minneapolis, who is a disgrace to bipedal homonyms, and he is hominids, and he is not homonyms, and just embarrassing. He's unwaveringly focused. The economic recovery, the damage done, immigrant small business owners, and it used to be the American dream. And you guys waved in tens of millions of illegal aliens and gang members and child sex traffickers and drug traffickers and child sex abusers all over the place, and now we got to pay them. Well, I hope it's just Minnesota dollars. I think President Trump should cut Minnesota off from any federal aid of any kind. Tim Walz. So there is. And now he's got, it's an emergency, just like the Chinese Wuhan Red Death. And we're going to have to start throwing millions of dollars at people who may or may not be illegal aliens. And if you're an illegal alien running a business in Minnesota, you're still an illegal alien. Let's start with that. Here is Democrat Governor Tim Walz.
We're going to be proposing a reinstitution of our small business emergency fund. It's what we used very successfully during COVID in the recovery, the economic recovery that we saw in Minnesota that outpaced most of the rest of the country. We're going to be proposing a first-time $10 million one-time targeted loans, forgivable loans.
One time. $10 million. And he calls them forgivable loans. That is Democrat talk for we're throwing other people's money at people that didn't earn it. And they're not going to repay it. Forgivable loan is an oxymoron. A loan is something you pay back. Forgivable is something you don't pay back. So which is it, you corrupt SOB? Here is the Democrat governor of Minnesota.
The federal government needs to pay for what they broke here.
No.
There are going to be accountability on the things that happen, but one of the things is the incredible and immense costs that were borne by the people of this state. The federal government needs to be responsible. You don't get to break things and then just leave without doing something about it.
You broke everything. You should be in a penitentiary. You should be dragged away in handcuffs, face down by your ankles, with your hands cuffed behind your back. You get the picture. You know, kind of like that. That's the thing with these guys. That's it. So millions and millions of dollars because the federal government enforced the law and broke the back of mentally ill Democrats like Tim Walz. These are extraordinary times in America. Rural Americans deserve access to the very best of what our great nation has to offer in all matters, and particularly when it comes to health care. Across every state in our great country and every community, America's rural hospitals are the first line of defense, protecting our families, our neighbors, the people that we love. No matter where you live, hospitals They don't clock out. They're always there, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And every year, America's more than 5,000 hospitals care for millions of patients, providing 24/7 emergency care and delivering babies, providing cancer treatments, other life-saving care that patients rely on. Behind every one of those patients, there are doctors, nurses, caregivers working tirelessly to help keep people healthy and safe. Hospitals are a community's lifelines. They employ our neighbors and keep our families healthy. But right now, there are some people in our Congress that are threatening access to that care. Tell Congress to protect patient care and keep America strong. Don't cut rural health care. Paid for by the coalition to strengthen America's health care. Yes, sir. Yeah, I got to tell you, these Democrats now, they're gonna and the federal government's got to pay for it. I think the federal government should sue Minnesota, sue the governor, sue the mayor Mayor Fry of Minneapolis, sue them all, and make them pay for the cost of ICE having to be brought in to enforce the law while they resisted and refused to cooperate. The Democrat Party membership is a mental illness. Now, the defund the police Democrat Party, which likes more crime and more murder, they are hell-bent on defunding ICE and canceling ICE because they're open borders, they're pro-Venezuelan gangs, Tren de Aragua, pro-Salvadoran gangs, MS-13. They got a cable channel named for them now, MS-13 DNC. And a friend of mine, Brian, law enforcement, texted me and said, I think Minnesota owes us $9 billion. Minnesota, when Tim Walz repays the federal taxpayer, the national taxpayer, American taxpayer, $9 billion, then we can talk about funding as illegal aliens. But that said, the Democrats dig in, guarantee shutdown with block of Department of Homeland Security funding. Democrat Senator Jeanne Shaheen was on CNN lying about everything this morning.
Have been described as well, it's not the Democrats, it's the Republicans' unwillingness to negotiate with us that's the problem.
Liar.
And look, it's in their interest to address the excesses that ICE has been showing all Americans.
No
all you
excesses.
have to do is turn on the television at night and see the horrific pictures of masked people arresting and detaining American citizens and putting them in detention centers that have been described as concentration camps.
Yeah, by you communists, by you fascists, isn't that amazing? Jeanne Shaheen. Yeah, they're arresting American citizens and putting them in concentration camps. She is a lion Sacagawea. And Dems dig in, guarantee shutdown, government shutdown coming with block of DHS funding. President Trump offered them modifications, and Chuck Schumer is going to shut the government down, and the media is going to lie about it.